the Lady Pirates. We're now joined by Grayson Grundhoefer, Bearcast, and also Sic'Em, 365 and 365 Sports Football Analyst. Grayson, thank you for your time. Is the delay in the official naming of the defensive line coach bothering anything you, or is this just a matter of protocol?
I really think this is just a matter of protocol. I mean, you kind of look around and just reading the tea leaves as far as I think maybe yesterday or a couple days ago, San Diego State hired their defensive line coach. So, read into that what you will. But I do feel like things are moving. They're just moving a little slower than I think people would like. Now, the other two took a little bit of time too, right? For Mason Miller and Jamar Chaney to get announced officially. It took a little bit of time. So I kind of think this is a similar situation. I'm not too worried about it currently. But, these things, they can fluctuate and things can happen. And I think the fact that, it is taking some time raises some eyebrows and a little concern. But again, I feel pretty confident that things will get done and there should be an announcement, maybe later today or potentially this weekend.
Grayson, what do you think about a potential June signing period?
Well, Paul, I was actually, thinking about this a lot today, to be honest with you. And, I think that it is a great idea. And I think long-term, it's really good for Baylor if that were to happen. And a big part of that is because, you kind of look at the landscape of college football and really how it's been over the past, many, many years. And it's kind of this simple fact that, Baylor, for the most part, relies on finding guys early, building a big relationship with them, and then eventually trying to sign them at the end. Well, if you, get to sign a kid in June, that's huge because a lot of times, these big time programs, Texas, the bigger schools around the state, and then out of the state, Alabama's, Oregon, as we saw with Austin Novosad, it gives them time to evaluate all the 5 stars, see where they go, evaluate all the high 4 stars, see where they go. And then, open spot here, open spot there. Then they can just flip right back and try to land a prospect committed to a school like Baylor. And so I think that the June signing period gives Baylor an opportunity to sign their guys after official visits, assuming that it would be late June, which I don't see why it would be a different date. Unless they change up the calendar, you got to get your official visits in before that signing day. So my guess is it would be at the end of June. And again, that'd make a lot of sense. I think it would benefit Baylor greatly and a lot of the schools that aren't, after all the 5 stars in the country. I think that it benefits them greatly. And I think it's a great thing because it's going to cause a lot of these, bigger programs to really dive deeper in their recruiting and really dive deeper in trying to figure out, where these hidden gems are. And again, I just think it's a huge benefit because I don't think they have the resources to do that, nor the patience when they could be waiting on 5-star type prospects.
Grayson, I guess it had been out there for a few days, but I saw another kind of round of reporting this week with Western Kentucky linebacker Jaquez Evans officially entering the transfer portal. That's notable because Baylor picked up Kendrick Simpkins, the safety from Western Kentucky, and then, of course, just made official this week, although he'd been on the radar for a couple weeks, the hire of Jamar Chaney. So how much are your eyes on Jaquez Evans as a potential addition for Baylor this offseason?
Right. There's one more connection, and that's that Steve Lenton, who transferred to Baylor this offseason from Texas Tech, actually went to the same high school as Jaquez Evans as well. So a lot of connections there, a lot of intrigue there when he entered the portal. And, Jamar Chaney was his position coach as well because, he was an edge at Western Kentucky, and Jamar Chaney coached outside linebackers. So that's where he would fit in that. I know if he came to Baylor, Chaney wouldn't be his specific coach, but all these connections, I think they do add up. Now, saying that, I will also say that I think Jaquez Evans is going to have a lot of options. He was a 2022 All-Conference USA performer, first team. 2023 he dealt with injuries that kind of set him back a little bit. I think he only appeared in 6 games and didn't really play up to the level that he showed in 2022. So I think he's going to have a lot of options. I think there's going to be a lot of schools calling him, trying to get him to visit. But I also think that Baylor should be in a very good position, especially, at the timing right now I think it makes a lot of sense that, he would probably make Baylor one of his top schools at the moment. And that's a pretty big one, as Baylor, really has been looking to address the front seven. There's still some rumblings in my eyes, even during the initial transfer portal window, that they were going to try to add another prospect into that front seven. And that's where Evans would really fit in the fold extremely well, just kind of as a best available type at a position that I think they could add some more depth, but even bigger than that, just as a pass rusher. You can't get too many pass rushers, and Baylor sure needs them after really, really having a tough time getting after the quarterback last year.
Linton had a huge game against Baylor. He has a motor that when it's on is quick twitch and dangerous in a good way for a defense, but he also has a motor that sometimes is not always on. Is that what you've heard about him too?
Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious from his time at Syracuse and at Texas Tech, just the simple fact that he hasn't really been able to be a full-time player, a fully every down reliable player. Now, he's not going to be asked to do that because Baylor's got Garmin Randolph, and then if they add a guy like Jaquez Evans, he's not going to be asked to play every down. But what he can do is, in those short bursts like you're talking about, he can provide a huge impact as a pass rusher. And to me, he's kind of a perfect take for Baylor, just because at that position, they're really searching for upside. That's just kind of been the problem really with the jack position since Dave Aranda got to Baylor, is there just hasn't been a lot of upside there. It's kind of just been, ho-hum production. And that's not really what he was used to during his time at LSU. And so I think that it's just a situation where you really need more guys like that, more guys that are athletically gifted who, if they reach their upside, you could be looking at, potentially a borderline all-conference guy if everything comes together.
Grayson Grundhoefer with us, recruiting analyst, Bearcast, and more on 365 Sports. So they're about to, it's March, and so spring drill starts a little bit later on. Have you already kind of started positioning what you'll watch for the most when everything begins, or have you already been through that already?
Yeah, I definitely am I'm curious about a lot of things, but to me, I think the biggest thing this spring is going to see position changes. And it's fascinating, right? Because, if you go out and add a guy like Jaquez Evans, are you really going to keep three guys at jack? It would kind of make sense to maybe move Garmin Randolph to field end, which is what TJ Franklin played last year. That's a move that, who knows, maybe that happens if they get more depth at jack. Or you look at the defensive line, you had a lot of young guys playing last year. Is Brendan Bett really going to stay at nose tackle when his profile really says he could play boundary, which is what Gabe Hall played last year? Does he make a move? You look in the secondary, they have like 6 cornerbacks that I think they feel really good about. Would you move one of those guys to safety? Would you try to experiment there with maybe a guy like LeVar Thornton? Does Carl Williams stay at the star position, or does he move back to cornerback after having a really, really good true freshman season? There's just a lot of intrigue in my eyes with all of that, with the offensive line. How does that come together? Who's the initial starting group? I just think when you kind of look around the landscape of Baylor football going into the spring, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of question marks, but also a lot of optimism about the talent they have on the roster. So to me, it's just about finding where that talent belongs and where it can fit in the most, and then trying to see, if that improves your football team.
All right, Grayson, I believe you said earlier this week that you're going to Foster Pavilion for the first time this weekend, or tomorrow, I should say, for the Kansas game. So what's your excitement level for checking out the new facility, and just what are your thoughts on the matchup with the Jayhawks and the Bears tomorrow?
It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to be in that environment and just, get a chance to finally see it. Everyone's been talking about it. I know they've played quite a few games in there now, and I'm thrilled. I think it's going to be such a cool experience and a lot of fun. Now, as far as the game goes, I think this is a game where you look at Kansas's last performance against BYU, and you kind of just sit there and go, this game is there for the taking for Baylor. This is a game they absolutely should win. I don't think Kevin McCullough is going to play for Kansas. I think Kansas is at a point right now where they're just trying to survive until McCullough comes back, whether that's in the Big 12 tournament or in the NCAA tournament, just trying to keep their heads afloat get a 3 seed, get to a seed level where they can still win some games. Whereas I really think Baylor, even without Langston Love, is really trying to get a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. And really, this past week was good, beating TCU. The 2 losses to BYU and Houston officially ruled them out of the Big 12 title race, but there's still an opportunity there for them if they close extremely strong to get a 2 seed. Now, I think that would require probably winning these next 3 games, and then going to the Big 12 tournament and probably winning at least 1 game in order to get to that point. But I think in general, you're going to see a very motivated Baylor team, and a team that in my eyes can't lose again at home. I mean, this team, this program is too good to be losing 3 conference games at home in a season. That just should not be happening, especially in this new environment. They got to figure out a way to get this game done. And then, of course, they play Texas next week at home as well. So these 2 games, in my eyes, must wins for Baylor. They got to find a way to get it done, and they got to do it at home, which is, everyone's been talking about, this new environment, a great crowd. They get an opportunity to have a real home court advantage, but they haven't really capitalized on that to the level that I think most fans and I think the coaches and players would expect.
I agree. By the way, McCullough looks like he might have gotten the green light. Is that right, Craig?
No, I mean, Bill Self indicated that it was a possibility he could be coming back, but I just looked again, and it's not anything official. So just mind games before the game. We'll see tomorrow if he suits up or not.
Absolutely. Grayson, have a great weekend. We'll see you tomorrow at the Foster Pavilion. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Grayson Grundhoefer, 365 Sports, Sic'Em365.com.
Yeah, I haven't gotten official word from